Hello folks, welcome back to Sword and Musket. This is my channel discussing and looking at the study of antique arms and armour, rifles, pistols, collectible and otherwise. Today I'm going to talk about a pair of classic antique dueling pistols. There are three main makers which are noteworthy. There was Twig, Purdy and Manton. These are made by Joseph Manton. There are other Mantons, but the one that's really worth collecting and looking at is Joseph. He did an awful lot of development and produced some beautiful and very fine guns. So also there has been extensive studies and work done on what he produced, which we'll refer to later. Here is a nice solid hardwood military style travelling case. It's got a sunken carrying handle on top, though because of its age I wouldn't recommend carrying it. There is a vacant escutcheon, nothing on it, military corners, but this piece has actually still got its key and does lock. So let's have a look on the inside. What you can immediately see is Manton's trade label. Now that can be verified to a particular period of time when he was at a certain address in London, but we're not looking at that today. We're just going to briefly look at the pistols because they're the really interesting bit. Now, when handling these things, it is best to use a nice pair of white gloves because we do tend to transfer acids from our skin onto the surface of the steel, and there's nothing worse for the longevity of the things than thumping great fingerprints. So although I do have fairly dry hands, I'm going to stick to the protocol. Now the case includes compartments, it's fully lined, it seems to be original. This is what we're looking for as collectors, originality. There's a few of the musket pistol balls in here. There's a oil bottle of the day and also what they call a three-way flask. Leather covered, has a powder measure at the top with a spring-loaded catch, little swivel compartment for if one was travelling, keep some extra rounds in, quite a few, about 6 by the look of it. And then on the underside it has a screw out base which you could probably carry flints or wadding etc. in there to keep the guns going. So that little flask is quite important to running and servicing the pistols. Now they're an identical pair. Also in the box are cleaning and loading jag, a wad cutter to cut the correct size wad, and screwdriver, screw turner, ebony handle, and a bullet mold which has wedged itself there. It does have the number 36 stamped on it, that's fairly irrelevant. So there we have it. You can make your bullets at night, and then when they come out cold you cut off the sprue, the little lead tag at the back with this part of the plier. So you're self-sufficient really. Now These are officers' pistols, British officers' pistols. You would have to be reasonably well off to be able to afford these. They are half stocked, which means the stock comes up to here. It's finished in an ebony cap, as is the ramrod. The ramrod has also got the screw for extracting balls if they get stuck, because if that powder doesn't go off properly, the ball is down there by an interference fit, and it isn't going to come out just because you tap it that way. You have to stick that in, get that thread into the lead ball and pull them out again, and then start all over again. So it's a fairly long and laborious process. The mechanism is flintlock, which you can clearly see the cock and the frizzen. There is in fact a flint in there. These are called swan neck cocks. Manton has thought to include a safety device here. So if this is pulled back to half cock, the frizzen is down, and you've got that in a holster or tucked away somewhere. You apply that, and then you can't pull the trigger. And so it's not going to go off in your pocket and blow your leg off. Serious unpleasant accident. So quite a nice feature. Also note the size of the trigger bow. It almost looks too big for this delicate, beautifully made pistol. It is for the gloved hand, the officer's gloved hand. So that's a hint. Other hints include stand of arms on the trigger bow, military type stand of arms with a very sort of Rule Britannia type shield right in the middle. Let's see if I can get that closer. There you go. Once again, one of Manton's things are border engraved locks. So on the lock you can see his name, Joseph Manton, London, border engraving, and that's repeated. That particular type of engraving is repeated over most of the pistol, and it's beautifully done. It's very fine. Sometimes I find the Purdy's a little bit too much, a little bit too much engraving, but maybe you never can have enough. We have what we call a pineapple finial here, purely decorative, but once again cut out, engraved, inlaid into the timber. And we have a strong amount of what we call the bluing, which people might look at and say, well, it's black. Well, it's called bluing on these parts of the pistol, and that is a very finite process of accelerated rusting, which once arrested remains the same and is used to protect the metal in all ways. So, looking at these pistols, what else can we see? We can see that we've got octagon barrels, quite heavy octagon barrels. Now, the heaviness is to do with maintaining your aim, because you've got something you can hang on to there. Also, it restricts the amount of recoil when the pistol goes off. So as the black powder was not propelling the ball at such a high speed, I mean, it was still coming out there, still zinging, it's gonna hurt in the morning, they used the weight of the barrels to slow down the human response to recoil, which is to come backwards and pull up. So that ball has left the barrel before those barrels rise. It makes them very accurate. They're actually smooth bore. Now, in detail, we have what is known as a vacant silver escutcheon on the back. We have a gold-lined breech and platinum patent plug with Joseph Manton patent and a crown on top. He didn't decorate his barrels like twig. These were used for shooting folk pistols. They're not too gaudy, they're not over the top. That's why I like them. They're a tool for the job from the day. Now, what's so special about this pair of pistols? Well, there doesn't have to be anything super special about them, but it just so happens there is. Can you see that round hole? That's called the touch hole, and it sits on the outside of this magazine primer frizzen arrangement. That touch hole is in fact made of platinum. And Manton had come across platinum and used it instead of gold because it was harder. It corroded less. It was less damaged by the actions of being used, because black powder itself, when it's burned, produces an acidic reaction with metals. How do I know that it's platinum? Well, it just so happens that other people have done research on these over the years, bearing in mind that they're 220 odd years old. So let me take you down the trail. Let's take the pistol apart and find out what number Manton gave this beautiful set of pistols, because they're both numbered the same. There, we remove the barrel like that, turn it over, and both the barrel and the hut or breech have the number 038. 038. There is also a Crown government proof and viewing mark on the underside. So those have all stayed together since day one. The other one of the pair has the same number upon it. Now, just for safety's sake, let's pop this back together very carefully, apply the pressure where required, pop the cleaning rod back in, and just put it back in its box for a moment and release the spring pressure. Oh, forgot about my safety. Release the spring pressure, and there we go. Pop her back in a box with the other one. These bits out of the way. And then we turn to the second edition of DL back. And we discover that in 1804, one pair single barrel flintlock pistols, 10-inch barrels, barrel 72 bore by Joseph Manton Duelling Pistols, London. The note underneath says the breeches have a maker's stamp in platinum, a gold transverse line and the touch hole lined with platinum. The cocks and hammers are later replacements, the latter fitted with a magazine primer which has been engraved Joseph Manton in an uneven style. Now there is another table which notes peculiarities along that serial number range, and there they are again, 3038, platinum lined touch hole, first example, circa 1805. So it looks like this beautiful set of Manton dueling pistols were the first ones to have platinum lined touch holes. That's fairly special in collector's terms. If you enjoyed that, or if you have any questions, do contact me, press like or whatever the current trend is out there. You'll find more information, write-ups on other interesting guns at byswordandmusket.co.uk, or look out for more videos. Thank you. Goodbye. Happy collecting.